I love music, and I am completely undeniably jealous of anyone who has the patience to practice an instrument. When I was younger, I took piano lessons, but I didn't have the patience enough to practice, so I quit. So when I came to the College of Worcester, I was so happy to see so many musically talented people in one place. Because this is a liberal arts institution, my expectations were very high. We have a wonderful band, lots of clubs, we have the UG, but I was very surprised and disappointed to hear that there was no place to practice musical instruments for independent musicians on campus. For independent musicians in this context means students who play for relaxation or pleasure and are not part of any organization. It is not fair that there is a lack of practice space for musicians to play when the New Scott Center, Ebert Art Center, and the library all offer practice venues for other creative students to practice their craft. First, I will discuss this issue, how there is nowhere to go other than the dorms or Shida Music Center if it's available. Next, I will offer a solution, a proposal, which each of you can get involved in today. And then finally, I will discuss the possible outcomes that my plan will hold. So what is the problem? Well, there is no appropriate space for independent musicians to practice their instruments. How do I know this? Well, first off, Shida Music Center requires key access to the practice rooms. Usually they are reserved. And most of the rooms are not soundproof, so they are noisy. For example, I witnessed a band practice at the same time as a Don't Throw Shoes comedy event in a non-soundproof room. I spoke to Johnny Steinis, a freshman at the College of Worcester, and member of the up-and-coming group Sextus. And he said, and I quote, "Finding space is very difficult. You have to work around other people's schedules and also befriend someone with a key." Dorms are also inappropriate. These are places to study, and they need to be quiet. I spoke to Niku Istri on November 20th, 2011 in an in-person interview, and he said, "I would prefer if people not practice in the dorms." Dorms are also a place to sleep. No one wants to hear a guitar being practiced at 10 o'clock when they're trying to relax. Also, dorms are very inappropriate for storage. Think of how many instruments and the other things that you have to do to practice. You have your guitar, you have your amps, you have your chords, everything. A typical two-person dorm room does not have the adequate space to store all these things. And clearly, Lowry and the library are inappropriate for obvious reasons. So is it a big deal? Well, first off, it's discrimination. Athletes, dancers, theater majors, artists, and writers all have appropriate space for them to practice whenever they please, but musicians do not. Also, this violates Worcester's vision. The College of Worcester's core values promote diversity and inclusivity. Diversity in this context means diversity of interests. It's not fair for independent musicians because that stunts their creative process. So why should you care? Like I said earlier, I'm not a musician personally, but here's some reasons that you should. Music relieves stress. In an article from PsychCentral.com I accessed on November 20th, 2011, it discussed how music can relax our minds and bodies. For example, many of College of Worcester students listen to their iPods while walking around campus. This proves that music is an universal love on campus. On the other hand, no one wants to hear someone practice guitar at 10 p.m. because they have nowhere else to go. So what can be done? The College of Worcester needs to offer a better, more accessible practice space on campus. So I propose the creation of a committee that would be in charge of buying or proposing a program house strictly for independent musicians. What do I mean? A committee would create order, and the order that the committee would come up with a process, and that would gain school support. In an interview with Lori Stickelmeyer on November 20th, 2011, I asked her about the process of purchasing a house. And she said, and I quote, "Houses in the surrounding area cost anywhere between $75,000 and $125,000. Houses in the immediate neighborhood are older homes that generally need work done on deferred maintenance, So add $5,000 to $10,000 per year. Well, some of these costs can be deferred due to WooCorps, a summer initiative dedicated to fixing buildings during the summertime. Now, how will this fix the problem? Well, this will be a very good talking point for prospective students, and it will demonstrate the equal balance between arts and athletics. And the student support will unite the campus. And this will also further the College of Worcester's core values in the liberal arts and reflect positively on the school in the long run. So how do I know this will work? Well, there's already positive support. I interviewed Ariel Serini on November 18th, 2011, and she said, and I quote, "I was already considering having a house and having it strictly be a music house, and the project be teaching children who can't afford lessons." And this has already worked in other schools. We want to keep up because the College of Worcester does not want this bad reputation. I interviewed Jacob Nathan, a freshman at Skidmore College, on November 18th, 2011, and he said, "There are practice rooms open all day in the Zinkel Music Center for everyone. There are up to 20 practice rooms in the $30 million building. The College of Worcester is just as good as Skidmore. We need to step up." The potential is endless. In our house, lessons can be provided to community members, concerts can be held, and service projects will benefit positively on the community. Now you may be thinking, now why don't some of these people join the Scott Band or the ensemble, or just take lessons? Well, it could be too much of a burden. In the aforementioned interview with Ariel, she told me that if you were to take a 30-minute lesson with someone at Shida, you are expected to practice an hour and a half. If you take an hour-long lesson, you're expected to practice up to 3 hours or more. That's the equivalent of 20 hours per week, which is almost the full-time job. So that could be, not all of us are capable of that kind of time management, along with academics. And other people might be asking, a house is expensive. Where will this money come from? Well, if the College of Worcester can spend upwards of $30 million on the new Scott Center, I feel like there's a little bit of wiggle room in the budget. Plus, student support and WooCorps can defer the cost, and this is a great opportunity to get alumni involved. So let's visualize the results if we do nothing. Yes, we'll all walk out of this lecture hall today, and life will go on. But for some students, roommate tension will rise because of the noise, and some musicians may have to quit their instruments altogether. To quote our lovely Dr. Wick, on November 7th, during my preliminary meeting with her, she told me, "Sometimes things on campus don't get done because no one brings them up." So today I've spoken about this problem that has roughly affects about 10% of our college population. No one should have studies interfered with. My proposal solves this problem because it keeps Shida available to the people who need it, it promotes creativity and equality, and it reflects well on the College of Worcester. So what can you do? I am not asking you to protest. I'm not asking you to perform random acts of civil disobedience. What I'm asking you is to sign this sheet and showing your support, and this will lead us in the right direction. I would like to thank the guest of my presentation today for your attention, and I encourage you to sign up for the committee so we can get this started. As Robert Ingersoll said, music is above and beyond all words. This quote can be found on the College of Worcester's music major website. Perhaps we should start talking too. Any questions?
You mentioned in your speech that this problem affects 10% of the student population. Where did you get this information?
When I talked to, Eric asked, where did I get the 10% quote? Well, when I was having my preliminary meeting with Dr. Wick, we just came up with a figure. We figured there's about 2,000 students on campus. Roughly 200 have to be involved in some kind of music, whether they take lessons or they're just an independent musician.
Where would we get the money to build this place, and, like, I guess that's all I have to ask. Where would you put it to?
Cody asked where would I get the money to build this place. Well, there are already existing houses that we could renovate. And I was told about WooCore, which is a summer work study where students on campus can fix these buildings up. And if the proposal were to get granted and this house could be, we could get soundproofing, we could get storage space, equipment, anything that needs to be renovated in the house.
How do you think students could get involved in raising money for this house?
Lauren asked how would support and money be raised. I believe that alumni need to be hit up because imagine all of the music majors that have graduated that were going through the same problem in the past, and then talking to them about this, they'd be like, oh my gosh, this is such a good idea because I wish I had this back when I went here. And also student support, we can do fundraisers where I go in Lowry every single day and always see some kind of fundraiser asking for money. So,
how many people would be able to practice at the same time in the house?
Zoom asked how many people would practice at the same time in the house. Well, that's why I created the committee, because the committee is just a jumping off point. I don't know what kind of house is in the future. I don't know if we're going to have one that already exists, buy a new one, or not have it at all. So in my mind, I would love to have at least 5 or 6 available rooms at any time for people to practice, and then maybe like a lounge area for people to jam and talk and get together. It's just a really good social place.